everybody, and thank you so much to the great leaders that we have, Apostle Eddie and Prophet Stella. May we appreciate them this morning. My task is very straightforward and simple. Thank you so much for Pastor Stella who gave me a pattern to cut from. So I want to talk about briefly communicate to connect. Communicate to connect. Very, very, very important to really talk on that particular phrase. So it's a deep honor that I'm addressing people that are sitting in various platforms, ministers, pastors, captain of industries, and leaders in various spectrum. If I were talking in the platform of corporate environment, I would sound something like this, without mentioning the verses and the chapters. I would say you can persuade others if you are wise and speak sensibly. But because I'm in the context of the church, I'll refer you to the scripture, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 23. You can persuade others if you are wise and you speak sensibly. We're going to unpack that statement as we go. I'm going to talk about or refer to a quote that I came across during my preparation. This particular quote comes from a lad or a man whose name was Minister Fuller. He said the following, I quote, "You can never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." Let me go a little bit slower. Okay. You can never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. We are in a time where leaders must be communicative, because it's not adequate that I know what needs to be done or what ought to be done, where we need to be headed, if I cannot be able to articulate or communicate in some sensible way. It becomes very difficult. In fact, I make even the environment to be very hostile. I stifle the growth of any organization if I'm not a communicator, or not just a communicator. So I'm just going to play this little clip so that you can be able to open this dialogue, because it's a conversation that we cannot finish here. This presentation that I prepare is really compacted, but for us to be able to distill some ideas and thoughts. So let's play this particular clip real quick.
I figure 75 between the five of us. Gina, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the five of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pop. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. Let me rub this out here. That's now 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, the 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
Oh, you're wrong, Billy. No. I'm pretty good at the distance. Now, 5 into 25. 5 won't go into 2, will it?
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we're going down here. 5 into 25, 14.
No. Times 5. 5 plus 5 is 25.
I'm surprised you're learning. I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5.
Look, you're wrong. I'll do it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14. There. Now I'll prove it to you by addition. That 5.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now back to the spotlight. So a video clip that we just watched, it's really communicating something very, very important. There are a number of lessons, but I'm going to just only distill a few. Now, it's very important that if you are going to be communicating, you must be able to be aiming at connecting with the people. So how do you communicate such that you can be able to communicate or you can connect with people? Number one, it's very important to understand that in the course of communication, there's what we call disruption and disconnection. We don't like it, but it does happen. And what some of the causes of those disconnection and disruption, it's simply sometimes what we call invisible noise. Invisible noise. What are some of the invisible noise? Invisible noise sometimes refer to what I would term stereotypes. In other words, there's no person who does not know anything. Let me elaborate that statement. What that means is that some of us, we have specialized in the wrong knowledge. And therefore, when the new knowledge is being introduced, we are likely to fight it. So what is the role of a leader then? The role of the leader is that the role of the leader must be able to, amongst other things, be able to communicate the underlying issues, the undergetting issues. Usually we don't do that because we are assuming that everybody understands. On the basis of the video that we just watched, it's being assumed by the lecturer or the consultant that everybody would be able to understand that if you are multiplying a number, it should give us a 25. But we are not all coming from the same school of thought. Some of us are from the school of thought that says 1 plus 1 is 11. Yeah. Some of us, we are coming from the school of thought that says 1 plus 1 is a big 1. So therefore, the rationality or the undergetting issues must be able to be understood. Can communicating to connect be learned? That's a question, but it's a rhetoric one. Yes, communicating to connect is a learnable skill. In other words, all of us, we can be able to learn and perfect it. As I quoted a scripture earlier, you can persuade others if you are wise and speak sensibly. So let's take it in the normal language, that the way we speak in a general place. We wouldn't quote it this way. We will say the following: for us to be able to communicate, in order to connect, we must develop what we call conversational intelligence. Yes. Conversational intelligence. What does it mean in simple sense? When we talk about conversational intelligence, we are talking about, in the main, the fact that we need to be able to understand, amongst other things, that when we are communicating with people on the other side, they are listening, but when they are listening, they also put what we call filters. They hear us, but then when they hear me saying intelligence, what comes to their mind is not the word that I've spoken. It is the image that they associate with their intelligence. And therefore, conclusion is made. Very, very important. So, let me then try to paraphrase the following. When we talk about communicating or communicate to connect, which in the corporate world is simply known as C2C. C2C. There are a few things that we need to bear in mind. Number one, it's very important that at all times aim to establish what we call rapport. Rapport. What is rapport in simple human layman's language? Rapport speaks about that I should aim to be able to be in contact with the people that I'm dealing with. Now, one of the spoiler of rapport, it's sometimes hoping that because I am speaking this big jargon or in whatever language will then make it me looking a little bit wiser. The problem is this, that sometimes when your language is much more polluted with a lot of jargons, people only left with nothing that you've said that is really of substance. And therefore the problem is that when they don't have anything that they've gained from out of your communication, therefore don't expect any results out of it. This then explains the following, that why many instances we might be preaching 52 days in 365 days, and only to find that if we were to quantify results versus what has been dispensed, you find that it's only 0.007 of results. It's because, of course, we are speaking. Sometimes, some of us who are also high preachers, we are very loud, but loudness must not be confused with communication. Or maybe let me put it in the context of the church. Even perspiring is not part of communication. It's just the body that is reacting to whatever pressure that you put. So, what C2C or communicate to connect demands conversational intelligence, as I said. So I want to suggest the following. Number one, it's very important that if we're going to be communicating, we must aim, as I said, we must aim for connecting, but we must also aim for engaging, navigating, and also transforming the other person's world. You see, the beauty part of being a pastor, being a speaker, being a trainer, being a coach, is that you have this beautiful, resourceful tool, which is called communication. But as John Maxwell said, everybody's communicating, but few are connecting. So therefore, we must be able to give ourselves a task as we leave here. Even in smaller things, I'm going to give you a good assignment, that as you go home today, speaking to your children or kids, are you connecting with them? I'm going to talk about a few other things as I proceed. I'm about to conclude, by the way. So when you communicate, some of us, we are talking at people, not to the people. So what do I mean? In other words, when you're talking at people, sometimes you are using language that they do not understand. For an example, there's this simplest English phrase that is called, it's a metaphor. They say, species of plumage perambulates in close proximity. And suppose that was a statement that you wanted to convey to the people for them to be able to take a specific action, and you left them with that statement. Guess what you've done? You have created confusion. And by the way, there's not even a measuring yard or yardstick that you've put to say, when we come back, how do we measure this perambulates that you talked about? You come back 6 months down the line and you said, let's check the results. And everybody will be like shrugging their shoulders and said, but we did not even hear what you said. So let's rephrase that particular statement. Suppose you have said to the people, birds of feather flocks together. That would have been understood. So, I want to propose what I have termed Pauline model of influence. Pauline model of influence. Pauline taken from the scriptures, Paul's writings. Okay. So, Pauline model of influence proposes the following: that when communicators who are intending to connect with the people, they do the following. They teach for others to learn. They teach for others to learn. They don't end there. They proceed to say, when you communicate for others to hear. In other words, borrowing from the presentation of Pastor Stella, you make sure that you simplify what you're talking about, so that the hearer can be able to hear and read, so that he can be able to run. The reason why some people have read and they are still seated, it's not the problem that they don't want to run, but because the problem is that they don't know where to run to, because they've not read that something that they understood. Okay, so teach for others to learn, communicate for others to hear, but they also impart for others to receive. Lastly, they also do for others to hear or to see. So those are the communicators who've got, the intention or the plan to see connection happening. So let's talk about a very interesting model that was proposed and that's still relevant even in our times. This model is called art of persuasion or art of rhetoric. It is made up of at least three segments. Segment number one, it is the segment we call logos. Logos. All right? Segment number two, which is symbolized as a gear, it's ethos. Somebody say ethos. Ethos. And somebody say logos. Logos. Somebody say ethos. Ethos. And somebody say pathos. Pathos. Now, this need not to, intimidate you, but needs to be understood. Number one, when we talk about logos, the framework of logos, we are talking about when you communicate at a level where you wish to be able to be logical, orderly, sequentially, as well as appealing to the structure and the reasoning. Because every time when you are communicating, bear in mind, in your audience, it may not be in church, it may be in corporate, it may be in a family setup. The people that are in the audience, some of them, they've got IQ that is higher than you. Others, they are in the middle. Others, they're a bit lower. Others, they even have other quotients, rather. It could be conversational intelligence, it could be emotional intelligence, it could be many others. So whenever you talk to them, always strive to make sure that your reasoning, or rather, you appeal to them at a level where they will be able to understand you. So in other words, appeal to the mental faculty. I'm not saying that the pulpit or the church setting to be an academy lecture. No. All I'm trying to say that from time to time, know who you're talking to. Yeah. Secondly, ethos has to do with character, ethics, and believability. So what does it mean? A communicator does not really help much if he's only appealing at the level of only just the mental faculty. He has to come down to the place where we can believe his story. Yeah. Because some people, when they talk good. But only to find that the message and the messenger, there's always a wider gap. Yeah. Now I want to put a question now to the preachers, that people are not only persuaded by what you are saying, but they are persuaded even by your prayerful conviction. Yeah. Wow. The thing that produces the message. Yeah. Number three, pathos then refers to the connection at an emotional level. Yes. And it has been said that people, before they could be able to take mental decision, in other words, rationalize things, they are likely to go with the emotion first. In other words, they will take a decision at a heart level and later on backtrack and go and start to rationalize. Yeah. So make sure that when you are speaking, you speak to those particular areas. Very, very important. So the question is, how do I package my message? How do I package my message? How should the C2C messaging look like? Number one, the message must be sanitized. The message must be sanitized, because this is the danger. Sometimes when you are really speaking and you are communicating certain things, remember, when I stand here versus when I was sitting down there, the level of reasoning and the level of thinking is speed up the more I come here. Why? Because public speaking on its own, it's not necessarily a natural phenomenon. When you stand up here, you are raising against the thoughts as well as the speech. So therefore, you should be able to come to the place where some of the toxins that are not necessary for that particular message must be taken out. May I give a word of caution then to teachers and preachers to say that whenever you're going to be preaching, preferably make sure that your notes are done. And when you do them, when you stand up here, resist the temptation of thoughts that are coming somewhere that are not necessarily substantiated.
Stick to your notes. Stick to your notes.
I'm glad I have a backing. So disinfect from sometimes even cultural biases, stereotypes, and something that irritates And I'm talking irritation with my tongue on my cheek. There are times when some of the areas we need to go into so that we can be able to change the status quo. But bear in mind that when you address certain issues, know who is in your audience. Number 2, Pastor Selev already helped me out here. Number 2, you must simplify your message. The aim should not be to confuse, but the aim must be able to, towards comprehension. Because when people have comprehended, they can be able to produce results. The eunuch was asked the question, do you understand what you are reading? What does it mean? It simply means the following, that reading or reading sometimes do not necessarily guarantee comprehension.
Amen.
The spoken language should be an understandable language. Rather, you must come to the place where when you are simplifying the message, start out with the point and get to that particular point. That is the part of simplifying the message. When you start here, I have a point and I'm really getting to that particular point, and that point is the end. Now the last one, I'm going to really do it in this way so that I can accommodate different audience. Some of us are good storytellers. Some of us are good tellers. But let me give a word of caution. For those who are very sensitive with the telling, human being has a tendency of resisting telling, but they warm up very well to the idea of selling. So sell your message.
Oh, yes.
Jesus was quite good at that. He would sell his message so well to a point where Nicodemus, in the middle of the night, he felt that message, I really need to go after it, even though it might be away from the public eye, because the message was packaged well. So, I'm concluding. Connectors' healthy habits. What are the things to take on board as a communicator who's aspiring to be a connector at all times? Number 1, create an environment that is always experiential. In other words, when people are coming by, when people are around, they must always find that whenever you're communicating, it could be the smallest of information to the biggest of information, they must always find a place where they are part and parcel of that particular communication. That's the point that I talked about earlier, to say, don't speak at people. In other words, speak to them, because when you speak at their level, you are then able to solicit buy-in from them. That some of the things become much more easier to understand. Handy habit number 2, connector, inspire, and give hope. So infuse in your message, infuse in what you're communicating, always aim to make sure that you are not, when you are communicating, as I said, you are not pouring into an empty vessel. You are pouring into a vessel sometimes that has sometimes a contaminated content. So therefore, the introduction of the new content that you are proposing or bringing must be able to make sense at the level of mental faculty, relate to the person as well as aspire to the heart. Therefore, when you are able to inspire, the word inspire is an interesting word because it suggests that you are really drawing something that has already been inside. It just needs to be drawn out. Lastly, a communicator who aims to connect is one who also connector that lives what they communicate. That's the point that I mentioned earlier. Between the message and the messenger, there is no difference. I live what I say and I say what I live. Lastly, connecting demands time. Connecting demands time. So what do I mean? I've just put there a clock, which is a symbol of time. I want to quote a gentleman here who had influenced greatly the leadership landscape of South Africa. He said the following, Dr. John Divan: the worst use of time is to do well what you ought not to do at all. Okay, so having said that, how do we connecting demands time? What does it mean? Number 1, you must value every opportunity that you are given. Never take people for granted. Whether we are talking about small crowd, bigger crowd, every single time when you are given an opportunity, bear in mind that it is somebody's time. They took time to come and listen to you. Therefore, you should be able to make sure that you lead them at that level. Number two, there are 3 segments. It is recommended that you should be able to split your communication or your conversation into 3 at least. Number 1, there must be an opening, introduction, as you know, and then there must be a body, there must be a conclusion. You can't just be, juggling things around. You don't know whether you are coming or you are going or you are seated down. So the idea is that you start, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and you go ahead and tell them, and after you tell them what you've told them. 2 last point. Respect your audience by putting adequate preparation. They say the following: proper prior planning prevents procrastination. So whenever you are coming to speak, whether it is in a place where they've just given you 5 minutes, and by the way, 5 minutes in the speaking world, it's an hour. So whether they give you 2 minutes, you should prepare as if you're going to be speaking to the crowd. Some of the things that I'm talking about here, I've also learned them firsthand, even from Apostle. Apostle, I remember the time when you introduced the evening services then. It will be just a handful of us. But the way we speak into the platform, it will be as if it is a church full. Why? Because he respected the audience. So let me finish with this one, which is a thorny one, but it has to be spoken. Respect the time that you are given. Because as much as the Spirit of God moves and he does what he wills, the idea is that he is not the orchestrator of disorder. Many a times, some of the people, they left our organization and the platforms where we find ourselves in. It's merely because we do not stick to the time that we promised that we're going to stick to. And therefore, they feel that if this is how they do it, they rather find it somewhere else. As Pastor Stella has said, and said it appropriately, remember we have a competition. And some of the competition are very much invisible. But nowadays, they are much more out there. So if there's a church, and there's a black church, we are neglecting the aspect that the time is of essence. And we are communicating and we keep on communicating, but disconnected communication, it will then explain why the results are always the same. I rest my case.
Amen.
I'm left with
questions. You can take
questions.
Yes.
I think you were 15 minutes.
Okay. I'm ready to take questions.
Give us some light.
Questions.
And by the way, those who have registered, this particular presentation is also have been sent to you, so you can go through it and digest it. Question?
If your airdrop is on, I've airdropped, just accept. Did you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So you're saying what by April products?
Okay. All right. It looks like people do not have questions. So on that particular note, thank you so much, Apostle, for the platform.